There's a total of 568 of these assets, these companies that Mark Carney's invested in. Take a deep breath, because this is pretty shocking. I was counting the days and it finally happened. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Mark Carney disclosing his assets, and it is much worse than we thought. It is exhaustive. The list is huge. We'll be taking a look at that. I'm going to break down some of this. There's a lot of data to go through. I've been spending hours going through this stuff. Let's jump into this. We got this one from the Food Professor. It says, serious question to Carney faithfuls. How can anyone argue he's doing a great job since becoming prime minister? Canada is now facing more tariffs, not fewer. The federal deficit could hit $100 billion, a record, and he sent Parliament on vacation in the middle of one of the most significant trade disputes in Canadian history. And I'll add one more, Food Professor. Mark Carney went on vacation during this crisis, and he's still on vacation. He's had his minions organize a meeting on Tuesday, but he's still going to take a couple more days off. With that, though, we've got this news. Canada adds, surprise, 83,000 jobs in June, driving unemployment rate down to 6.9%. What they're not telling you here on City News is that 3/4 of these jobs are part-time, and anyone knows that you can't live in Canada on a part-time wage. A lot of people are struggling to live in Canada on a full-time wage. As Table Salt says here, 70,000 are part-time. 70,000 of 83,000. Hardly a statistic to brag about. Moving ahead, we've got Mark Carney recusing himself from 103 companies that he's entangled with. So this is his conflicts of interest. This National Post article here just mentions a few: Stripe, Brookfield. You guys have been hearing this for a long time on the channel now. How many times have I mentioned Stripe? The screen will prevent me from giving preferential treatment to any of the companies that I exercise my official powers, duties, and functions as a reporting public office holder, reads Carney's declaration. What a joke. All these guys are in on this together. The screen means that Carney cannot be involved in any official matters or decision-making processes that would further either his or the interests of the 103 companies, many of which operate in the renewable energy and real estate sectors. There's no way the conflict of interest commissioner is going to be able to keep up with 103 companies that Mark Carney's entangled with. This is ridiculous. That's the largest scope I've ever seen, commented Ian Stedman, the government ethics specialist who previously worked for Ontario's Integrity Commissioner. I think they're going to have to get creative with the administration of this screen efficient. The screen will be administered by Mark Carney's Chief of Staff, Marc-Andre Blanchard, and Clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Sabia.
Mr. Carney, Stephanie Levitz, Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner.
So this article goes on to talk about a lot of these companies, Brookfield Global Transition Fund. Let's just go look at the board. I've got way more details on this than they have in that article. So first off, one of those major conflicts of interest, this one here, the Brookfield Global Transition Fund, they mention it on there. Well, there's actually two funds, the $15 billion one from 2021 and the $10 billion one from 2024. Mark Carney set this up. This is the Bermuda Tax Dodging Fund, which is also, as you see, the Tweety Bird stars. This is a carbon capture logo. This fund, though, as you can see, it's got a whole bunch of people involved, different companies, lots of money. Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, Investment Management Corporation of Ontario, Ohio School Employees Retirement System, like a lot of money from a lot of places. It's invested in a lot of things such as low carbon technologies, including green hydrogen and carbon capture projects. I brought this up on a video a long time ago, talking about how it can raise the cost from between 30 and 70%. Green steel. Brookfield eyes green steel for multi-billion new transition fund. So once again, this just falls right into all this carbon capture, all this junk. I mean, just the announcement the other day of David McGuinty talking about the net zero airport. I mean, what kind of steel do you think they're going to use? They're going to use this green steel. And who's invested in it? It's Brookfield. So Mark Carney recused himself. He'll just have to... McGuinty, can you take care of this one? Like, come on, guys. So this fund here, this was Mark Carney's baby. This is the one that really got him on the map. He got into Brookfield. He put this in, helped Brookfield dodge $5.3 billion in taxes. That's what this is. So this is a rampant conflict of interest. He can say that he's recused himself. He can still put in policy that pushes everything towards increasing the value of this and, well, Brookfield. Got to remember, Mark Carney's the guy who moved Brookfield's headquarters from Toronto to New York. He moved all of this money from Canada to Bermuda. You have to take my word for it. It's on offshore leaks here database. Brookfield's headquarters here, if you make that big, got this whole web here, so you can see Toronto, Ontario, this one here. This is a business address, Brookfield Asset Management, linked to infrastructure partners, 22 Victoria Street, Hamilton, HM, Bermuda, and this one here, Front Street, Bermuda. So this is the bike shop, this one here. I don't know what this one is. They're building a new building just 2 doors down from the bike shop. They're building an entire facility, like a 6-story, 7-story building there. So that might be that one. And I was digging around in the Bermuda Register of Companies companies. And as we see here, there's a whole bunch of Brookfield, including like Brookfield Sustainable Resources. If you go through here, there's 30 pages of this. I don't know if all of them are related to Brookfield Asset Management. There's a whole bunch of Brookfield Strategic Real Estate Partners. So I don't know if these ones are a part of that company, but really the main ones here, Brookfield Asset Management, Bermuda right there, and Brookfield Bermuda Holdings. They have a whole bunch of companies. Here it is, Brookfield Asset Management, registered May 12th, 2022 by Mark Carney, so he could take Canadian money out of Canada and dodge taxes for Brookfield. So that was the first one on the list. Let's go over to the actual list. We're going to break down some of these today because there's a lot of them. All of Carney's assets were uploaded into these two documents. This one here, 16 pages. So you can see there's a lot of them. All the right side is all in French. So the English one's on the left. And you can see just page after page after page. There's a ton of them. So I've gone through and organized all these. We'll take a look at that afterwards. But just from the main page here, so what we've got is self-administered RRSP holdings and one or more securities. So here's the main ones. I've labeled these in yellow. This is what we're going to take a look at right now, but it also says each of the following securities which were held in an investment account managed by a third party in respect of which Prime Minister did not control or direct the selection of the investments. So they're saying that all of these ones, someone is picking them for him. Who knows what really happened here? Is he having one of his Goldman Sachs buddies set all this up? Has he held these stocks for a long time? I mean, look how many stocks this guy has. Does he have $1,000 in each stock? I don't think so. And asking AI, it thinks Mark Carney's worth 50 million. I think he's worth more like 500 million or more. So anyways, back to the list here. Let's take a look at these ones. These are the ones he has direct shares in that he's done himself. So the first one I just showed you there was this one here, Brookfield Global Transition Fund. Next up, we'll jump over to shares in Stripe. I've mentioned it so many times. So Mark Carney sat as a board member on Stripe, founding member of Frontier. Frontier got all this money from all these big companies, Alphabet, Shopify, Meta, McKinsey, $1 billion to start up this carbon capture thing. Brookfield invested in carbon capture. The rest is history. Also taking a look at Stripe here, once again connected to Elon Musk, initial investor. Mark Carney did deals with Elon Musk for these solar roofs in Austin, Texas, on top of these houses, as well as on this Willowbrook Mall. Here we have on Energy Connect's $1 billion effort fund startup that do more than clean up carbon. So this one here talking about Stripe. Stripe Inc. is trying a different approach to enable breakthroughs. Frontier, the public benefit corporation owned by Stripe, has facilitated its fourth round of carbon removal pre-purchases from 9 companies on the behalf of buyers of Stripe, Shopify, Alphabet, all these different companies. Many of the startups are removing carbon while generating useful byproducts, from a startup that spreads rocks over farmland to improve soil health to one that cleans up mine sites. Creating technology that creates and sequesters CO2 is not enough for startup success. This sounds like Mark Carney wrote this.
Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the European Union? Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the United Kingdom? Guess what one of the requirements will be to diversify trade to emerging Asia, to have a form of price on carbon.
With all this talk of green technology and doing good for the environment, why don't we take a look at the old violation tracker? It's been a while since I brought this up. So as you see here, 551 violations found for Brookfield Corporation. Why don't we click on something random here, Sprague Operating Resources. This is a good old fashioned environmental violation for $20,000 back in 2022 when Mark Carney was chair of ESG. Looks like something bad happened on Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. Aside from that, it doesn't tell us what. For the company that's telling everyone that we need to be driving EVs and everything needs to be eco and green, and they've got environmental violations, that's just one. You can look here. They have hundreds of them. Railroad safety violation, air pollution violation. So all these guys have been thinking about this for a long time. It's all this investment from big tech into Stripe going into carbon capture, and so many of these guys sitting on the board of Stripe. I can only imagine Mark Carney has millions of dollars invested in Stripe. Next up, let's take a look at his options and deferred share units of Brookfield Corporation and Brookfield Asset Management. So there's something very interesting here. So the stock options we know about, I've brought it up on the channel. It's this one here, this SEC report. As you can see, Mark Carney's name over here, 200,000 shares at strike price of $35 in Brookfield. And you can see right up here, BAM directors. BAM is Brookfield Asset Management. And you can see 200,000 shares of strike price of $40. Here's the total value. So if you bought the shares and sold them December 31st, you'd get 6.8 million US dollars. Just that as a little recap. If you look at the stock price today, he's up some more. So converted to Canadian, Mark Carney's got 13 million bucks in the bank if he buys the shares, sells them, and pockets the profit. But that's just the stock options. It's important to look here. It says deferred share units. So he has deferred share units in both Brookfield Corporation and in Brookfield Asset Management. Deferred share units are shares that are essentially like shadow shares. You don't get voting rights with them, but they're worth money. They're essentially a carrot for you to do better in the company since he had such a high position. And when he left Brookfield, he could have cashed those out, but he chose not to. That's why they're listed here. He still has these as deferred shares, meaning that he still has interest in Brookfield to gain value. He wants the stock price to go up. Otherwise, he would have cashed those in when he quit. This is huge. This is a big smoking gun, and he's got it for both companies here. This just shows that it's in his best interest for the value of Brookfield Corporation and Brookfield Asset Management to go up in value. Like, it doesn't get more clear than that. That's what a deferred share unit is. And one other thing that's very important to look at here with Mark Carney stock options is the expiration date. These options expire February 15th, 2033, and the 200,000 shares at $40 expire February 15th, 2034. So Mark Carney needs to jack the price of Brookfield as high as he can by 2033, essentially, because that's when those options will expire and he will have to buy and then sell it and net the profit. So essentially, he has 8 years to put this plan in place before these options expire. Now, let's pray and hope we don't have Mark Carney as prime minister for 8 years, but it just gives a timeline on when he has to have this plan completely enacted, which means he's going to be putting it in place now because he's on the clock. It's right here.
We are able to think one step ahead. We're able to go out and see the world. We're able to help Canadian companies prepare. And you know what's going to happen 5 years, 10 years from now? If I have the pleasure of being in front of you, you'll be asking me the question, if we didn't do this, if we didn't help our companies get more prepared, the Americans are going to start caring about this again. They have elections every 4 years. They cared a great deal about this 3 months ago. Now, all of a sudden, they don't care about it.
So moving on here, these two, kind of interesting. I have these on my board. I haven't talked about them on the channel yet. I'm surprised that these are a major investment that he's personally done. So we've got shares in Cultivo Land PBC and shares in Watershed Technology Inc. So I do have a handful of things on here I haven't talked about because sometimes it doesn't make sense yet for a video or there's not enough information, but you can see them right on Mark Carney's board. So this is all the boards that he's sat on. This one here, Watershed Technology, he was an advisor in 2022 and then a policy advisor board chair from 2023 until I'm not sure when. This is also a carbon capture one, which is why I've got the logo there. And we've got the Cultivo one up here, Land PBC. So here's Cultivo. They raised $14 million in Series A funding. Cultivo's pipeline and high quality nature-based carbon removal project surpasses 100 million hectares, equivalent to more than double the size of California. So this company's goal is to remove carbon from the atmosphere. That is what they do. So the more that Mark Carney can push Canada towards that, his value in this company goes up. He makes more money. It even says his name right here. The round follows Mark Carney joining Cultivo's board and brings the company's total funding to over 20 million. And here we've got Watershed, so next level sustainability intelligence. Watershed is the platform companies need to succeed in climate economy, and the world-class expertise of our policy advisor board is embedded directly in the product. Check this out. Defining the new climate policy landscape, including U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, the European Parliament, the Task Force on Climate-Related Finance Disclosures, the UK's Financial Services Authorities, the Integrated Council for Voluntary Carbon Market. I mean, look at all this nonsense that he's wrapped up in. His entire life, everything he's done points towards carbon capture, green technology, EVs, all of it. There's no way this guy's just pivoting. He ripped off Poilievre's policies just to trick people to get into power. He's going to be pushing this forward. And at the bottom here, you see January 2025 Watershed's policy board, formerly included Mark Carney, yada, yada, yada. So these have definitely been put on the radar now. I don't know a lot about this Watershed Technology yet, aside from just what I read. As stated, he has investments he's done himself in these two companies, so probably quite significant. That does it for all of these. Now, I've got something hiding over here, which is going to be absolutely shocking. But first, what we're going to take a look at is this one here, Public Registry Declarations. Now, what this is a list of everything Mark Carney's recused himself from. This is 103 companies. These are the ones we're really going to have to look at here over the next little while. It's going to take some time. So now I already have a bunch of these on my chart, but there's also a bunch of these that are new to me. So we scroll down here, you can see 103 of them. Like, I've never heard of any of these ones on the bottom. Oak Tree Capital. This is one of those companies that Brookfield moved a bunch of their money and a bunch of their people, and they shut down some stuff and reconsolidated. There's a bunch of Brookfield holdings here. Some of these I haven't heard of before, like the European one. Brookfield Renewable, Clarios, Terraform, Oakbrook Shopping Center. This is the Austin shopping mall with the solar roof from Tesla. More Brookfield Holdings, Inter Pipeline, that's in Alberta. Same with North River Midstream, also Alberta Oil. And a bunch of these already on my chart. We've got LanzaTech, this is carbon capture, Westinghouse Nuclear Services, Circular Services, Entropy, carbon capture. As you see, LanzaTech, carbon capture in America, Entropy, carbon capture, America, Westinghouse Nuclear Services, also in America. This has left me with a lot of digging to do because probably about half of these of the 103 I don't have on my chart, surprisingly enough. Now it's time to show you something very shocking. I've been sorting through the data, all of this stuff here, all of these assets that he has. He owns stocks in all of this stuff. Like, look at all these companies. So I spent hours sorting this data, running it through multiple different AI programs to organize it. And I wanted to know the origin of the country that these companies are headquartered. What country do they operate out of? Because this just tells a lot about Mark Carney. Are a lot of these in China? Are they in India? Are they America? Are they in UK? Are they in Canada? You think most of his investments should be in Canada? I think most of them should be in Canada, considering he's Prime Minister of Canada. After processing this, and I should just note here, I've not verified all of these because there's a lot of work to verify them, which I will eventually, but I have cross-referenced all of these with multiple AI. They came up with the exact same list except one. There's a total of 568 of these assets, these companies that Mark Carney's invested in. Take a deep breath because this is pretty shocking. This list here has Canada, France, Netherlands, and the UK companies all together. If we scroll here, you can see not that many. It's just this here, the United Kingdom. Zoom in here, you got Rolls-Royce. Once again, I haven't verified all these, so some of these may be wrong, but both AI systems had it pretty close down to one. And Canadian investments, what is Mark Carney holding? Waste Connections, Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway, Canadian Natural Resources. 3 companies. Mark Carney's invested in 3 Canadian companies, 2 in France, 4 in Netherlands, and about 24 in the United Kingdom. How many holdings does he have in America? This should explain everything about what's going on with the tariffs. Let me just zoom out for you. Let me zoom out a little bit more. How about some more? I can't even show you. Look at this. This is all the American companies the guy's invested in. It's so small, it doesn't even fit on the screen. I had to make 2 lists. It was so long. These are all American companies. You can zoom in here. American Intel Group, American Tower Corp, American Airlines, Johnson & Johnson. Look how many American companies is like. There's no way he wants the American economy to go down when he's invested in roughly 530 companies in America. There's 568 companies on this list, and there's roughly about 30 here. Is this elbows up, or did Canadians get duped? Mark Carney is not working for Canada, he's working for America. I predicted this 4 months ago that he was working for America. He went to China as a US business leader. Are we surprised with this gargantuan list of US investments? This is absolutely unbelievable. So once again, I'll go through and I'm gonna verify all of these. It will take me some time to do that, but when I ran it through AI, the only one that came up difference between the 2 of them was Waste Connections, and I did verify this one is in Canada. They do a lot of their business in Texas, but their headquarters is in Ontario. The key thing we're gonna have to look for now, specifically with this list of 103, is Mark Carney inflating the value of these companies. Because remember back when Justin Trudeau announced free heat pumps for Canadians?
To be blunt, the price signal on heating oil is not resulting in enough people being able to switch to electric heat pumps, despite people wanting to move to these cleaner home heating options.
Nobody wants to move to heat pumps, Justin, because most people, unless you live on Vancouver Island, most people have temperatures that get too low for heat pumps to work. But they knew that. But it was all about pumping up Brookfield and Trane and other heat pump companies' stock value.
As a government that is focused on evidence and data and outcomes, and that is listening to Canadians, we heard you. We heard our Atlantic MPs, and we heard Atlantic Canadian.
The only thing this guy heard was the sound of money going into his bank account.
People wanted to do the right thing. They weren't necessarily given the option or the ability to do it. To make sure that we are still leading in the fight against climate change, that we are unwavering.
So his unwavering support was to jack the value of companies like Trane. You can see here, Trane Technologies. This is Brookfield Asset Management Portfolio Holdings. Trane, which produces heat pumps in Canada. They've got $2.77 million, almost $3 million worth. I'm really surprised the media didn't pick this up late last year. I broke this story. I stumbled upon this on accident, and all you have to do is look at the time here, Justin Trudeau making this announcement on October 26, 2023. This here is Trane Technologies. You can see up here their stock chart. Justin Trudeau gets in right here, and you can start to see this thing starting to cook. And if we zoom in, when exactly is October 26, 2023? Where would you guess it is? It's right there. He announces free heat pumps, and look at the price of the stock here. How many liberals got rich off of this? This is what we're looking for here. That list of 103, all of these have the potential to do this. This is what we look for, because these guys are a bunch of scoundrels. Sure, they'll say, oh, it's in a blind trust. There's so many ways for them to get around this. They can give $100,000 to their sister as a Christmas gift with a note that says, invest this in Train Technologies or whatever. One of these companies, one of these 103. Invest in one of these companies because someone's brother or sister, their aunt, is not going to be subject to conflict of interest disclosure.